All right, welcome back to the Roast It Yourself podcast brought to you by Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop Roasting Shop. Each week we take about 10 minutes, 10 to 15, to field questions from home roasters and professionals alike about roasting, tasting, and most importantly, enjoying coffee. You can send your questions to questions@riypod.com. That's questions@riypod.com to get a nice shout out from us and, of course, to get your question answered. And so far, we haven't had a stupid question. So if you would like to send us what you think might be a stupid question, send it to questions@riypod.com, and we will see if we can answer it. But so far, they've all been great. Now,
yeah.
Here's one that is not a question that we've gotten via email. It's not a question that anyone has asked us necessarily point blank, but it's a question that keeps coming up and bubbling up in every conversation I've had in the last several weeks and a couple months, and that is pricing. Pricing, the C market. People have been reading about coffee pricing in the regular news.
Right.
Like, that's not a good sign
No.
at all. You want it to be super niche and no one knows, but now regular people and readers of normal publications know that coffee pricing is going crazy. So we're going to take a minute and just talk about what the C market is, the pricing of coffee, what it looks like in the future, what it looks like right now, and if we'll ever be able to enjoy good coffee for reasonable prices ever again. So we're going to check that out. So, Catherine, you've done a bit of talking with people about this.
I have. Coffee Bean Corral has a number of traders that we use to help us import the coffee into the United States. And we've had contacts since the beginning of Coffee Bean Corral in 1994. And I've tried to reach out and speak to as many people as possible to get a concise understanding of what's happening to try to be able to break it down to all of our customers. So you'll notice over the next few weeks, or you've probably seen on any of your social media that cafes are letting people know that they're increasing prices. And you'll see it sort of like a domino effect. So where do you want me to start? C market?
Oh, yeah. Start with the C market is how that works.
Sure. The C market is essentially a global coffee stock market where agricultural commodities, just like coffee, are traded worldwide. And it directly impacts retail coffee prices through its influence on per pound costs.
Yeah. Now, I know you've got some comments about like what goes into like the pricing of coffee, because we've talked a lot about internally here, but also it's a big conversation in coffee now about coffee transparency and pricing transparency, which feels like this is a great time for that kind of thing. But so what goes into the price of any given coffee? Because it's not just C market price.
Right.
There's other factors.
Yeah. So first of all, you pay the price per pound of the coffee. Then you pay the price of the C market. Then you have a differential with your trader. Then you have shipping fees and storage costs. So, for example, if normally when we buy a pound of coffee or a bag of coffee, you would pay, say, maybe $5 a pound for the coffee. And if the C market's at $1.50, you're paying $6.50 a pound for the coffee, and then not including all the rest of the differentials and shipping and storage costs. But what's happening now is instead of that coffee being, we're buying it at $5 a pound, say the market is now at $4 a pound. So now you're paying $9 a pound just for the first two. That doesn't include the differential or shipping or storage costs. So just that one hike up into the market, I've never seen the market where it is now. It's at $4 a pound the other day, which is obscene.
Yeah, and I believe it's a record. It's a record high. It's never been that high.
Right.
And I remember, we put out a survey, and it's been really helpful hearing from people. But some people have said things along the lines of like, "Bring back the $3.50 sales. Why don't y'all run those anymore?
Yeah.
Why don't you have the $4 a pound sales anymore? Come on, guys."
Yeah.
And you look at the chart. We looked at this chart in an internal meeting the other day, and it was like where coffee pricing was in like 2019 versus where it is today.
Yeah.
And it is like we're paying today a little more than we used to be charging retail.
Right.
Which is just, that's bananas. And so what are some reasons that we're in this situation like right now?
So the biggest factor in the price for coffee is Brazil.
Mm.
Brazil is the largest producer and exporter of Arabica coffees, and Vietnam is the largest producer and exporter of Robusta coffees. But so, say Brazil normally produces 60 million bags of coffee a year. Um, so, if they have a frost or lack of rain and they don't produce that amount of coffee. So, say instead of 60 million bags of coffee, they only produce 58 million bags of coffee. That means the supply of coffee is smaller. Um, and that means the price of the C market goes up. So when people see the C market going up, what happens is they know that they need to go ahead and buy coffee because the supply is getting smaller, but the demand is still really high. So other countries around the world can increase their prices because what people will do is they'll start buying coffee and dwindle the supply even more. The demand is still raising.
Yeah.
And that's just a normal thing that happens. The price continues to go up and go up and go up.
Oh, and I mean, already we've seen this with people calling in saying, "Hey, our coffee price is going to be coming back down." And of course, I bust out my crystal ball and say, "Aha!" Hey. No, I don't. I
Right.
have no idea, and I just say, "Look, this is where they're at, and they're trending upward." We just hit a unprecedented number. I hate that word, but
Yeah.
it really is. It's never
Yeah.
been that high, so it's actually unprecedented. And but even people that are buying, you see people buying up larger amounts of coffee at the the commercial roast level, of course. But even like people that are just buying for themselves, they're buying where they would normally buy 2 to 5 pounds. Now they're buying like 15, 20 pounds because they're like, well, I got to ride this out for months. And so they're
Yeah.
buying, 3 or 4 times what they normally would buy. And it's that kind of thing, which totally makes sense. I get it. I get it. But when everyone does that, it's like the toilet paper thing from a few years ago. When everyone does it, the prices go through the roof and we don't have what we need. So,
Exactly.
you know,
So the natural problems like frost or drought in Brazil reducing crop yields. So the supply shortages trigger panic buying from companies. And you said earlier in the opening about news coverage. So when news coverage amplifies concern, that leads to more panic buying. It reduces the global supply, allowing, like I said, other countries to raise their prices and increases global demand despite supply constraints. So you have people that are panic buying more coffee. So the price continues to go up because the supply goes lower. So it's just like this panic sort of loop of what's happening. And then people who are not necessarily on the green side of coffee just see prices getting higher. So they go ahead and they buy and buy and buy. So it's just this vicious cycle of the more people panic buy and the more news coverage and the more social media talking about all of these things, the price just gets higher and
yeah,
higher and higher. So even though it's nice to have green coffee in the news and people more aware of it. Because of that, that also is starting to increase the prices. So it's just, we're in this space where, I've had conversations with people who have been in the industry way longer than I have, and have seen the market fluctuate, more than I have as well. Uh, and everybody is sort of at a loss. And it's, at CBC, and what we've always done is, even though there are over 100 different offerings, most of the time what we do is for each individual coffee, we book a 12-month contract for the number of bags that we're estimating that we're going to use. What that does is it locks in the price of that coffee and the amount of bags that we need. And when you're buying coffee, you're watching the C market daily. And the goal is that we know the number that we need the market to be. So when we see that number, we lock in the price. And the goal is to keep the price the same for the customer.
throughout the year. So I
Yeah,
had it. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So um, when you're sitting there and watching the market go up and up and up and up, and you have all these contracts you need to book. You're in this space of, well, because the supply is going lower and lower and lower, you risk not being able to book coffees that people depend on. So either you book it at the price it is now, or you risk not having the coffee at all.
Right. And that stings. And something else we're not even, I mean, we sell specialty coffee.
Yeah.
So you can buy coffee from the same origin, but maybe you're below specialty grade now.
Right.
And we don't want to do that. So that's not what we sell. And so we're over here going, yeah, people are buying up, and that, adding the specialty factor to this where it's just high grade coffee that's been very well cared for, very well processed, and all these practices that go into it, that just adds more dollars to the per pound price when you go from buying, like if you were buying commodity grade coffee, which is still very high, to specialty grade coffee. It's a whole other ballgame, but we're not going to compromise quality, but that does mean prices, that makes prices go up. It's just how it goes.
It is. So it's just sort of this waiting game, So it's sort of like when you're watching the stock market, you're looking at prices to figure out when you're going to buy or sell all of these things. And here we're steadily watching this price to make sure that everybody wins.
Yeah.
And normally, we could wait a few months and sort of hold out for the price that we're looking for. But just now, it's the supply is getting so much smaller.
It won't be there in a few months.
Yeah.
Like if you don't book contracts, somebody else will book those contracts, and then we will just be sitting here looking at you guys going, we have 3 coffees.
Right.
I hope you really like them a lot.
Yeah.
And so we're going to keep our inventory. We're trying to balance and spin all these plates at the same time. So we thank you guys for hanging with us.
Yeah.
And Catherine, I mean, this is, what is this? We're about 11, 12 minutes in, and I think we covered everything.
Yeah, essentially.
I think so. Yeah. There's nothing else to know about coffee pricing, the markets.
I know everything.
On the off chance that we're wrong and there is something else, you can absolutely drop that in the comments on YouTube or on your podcast app and let us know. One thing I can guarantee is that the price we're charging for this podcast, flat.
Yeah.
It's a flat $0, 0 cents subscription
Right.
every month. The whole world is subscribed. They just have to tune in.
Yeah.
And so we're going to keep that steady. And no matter what the market does with coffee, we're going to keep doing this at $0, 0 cents. So I hope you're enjoying it. You can't be enjoying it as much as we enjoy making it because we just love sitting down. Even when it's like boring number stuff like this, it's still fun to sit with Catherine and talk about this stuff. So we hope you guys have enjoyed it too and found it helpful. We're excited to watch the Roast It Yourself podcast grow as much as possible and reach as many people as we can. So please share this around because we can't do it without you. We also couldn't do it without the folks who handle our audio and video and graphics, make us look good, sound good, and enable us to come to you every single week with more information that is hopefully helpful and hopefully helps you decide what to do with your coffee roasting, coffee tasting, and coffee enjoying. Remember, send any questions you have to questions@riypod.com. That's questions@riypod.com. Otherwise, have a great day and happy roasting.
Happy roasting.